Cryptocurrency market just imploded on itself and is leaving a lot of people asking the question, what just happened? In this video, I want to talk about exactly what took place, why we saw the massive sell-off, and where it leaves us going forward. Prior to this event, we are watching some very positive price action in the cryptocurrency market, and it seemed like all of that positive momentum was completely canceled out. In this video, I actually want to give you a contrarian view and talk about why I believe this actually gets us so much closer to our end goal. Guys, I believe we are in a very exciting time right now. I want to show you exactly what you need to be paying attention to, so make sure to stick around for this whole thing. Like always, your support means so much to this channel. Thank you to everyone who takes the time to like these videos and subscribe to the channel. These two simple things really do help me out so much. Also, if you ever need a good place to buy some XRP, make sure to check out my favorite exchange, Uphold, down in the description of this video. With that said, though, let's jump right into it, and I hope you guys enjoy the content. So guys, as I stated in the intro, we saw a massive implosion in the cryptocurrency market late last night going into this morning, and a lot of people are left asking the question, what just happened and how bad really is it? Well, guys, the thing that really sparked this implosion was essentially Japan raising interest rates. They went from 0% to 0.25%, and this left a lot of people scrambling to get back on sides. What this meant was a lot of people never thought Japan was going to raise above 0%. They were borrowing money for free. And because Japan raised the interest rate, all those people who were borrowing money for free before are now expected to pay back Japan at a specific rate. Now, this caused a lot of trades to implode. It caused a lot of margin calls and caused a lot of panic because a lot of people were not hedged appropriately for this to ultimately happen. This is essentially what caused the implosion. This is what caused the shock. A lot of people were caught off sides not expecting this to happen and were forced to liquidate positions. Ultimately, the thing we need to take away from this is it actually gets us a lot closer to the end goal we have all been waiting for, which is lower interest rates. We have seen for the past couple years, we have been in a high interest rate environment, which is historically not good for cryptocurrencies. Cryptocurrencies, despite this negative environment, despite this constrictive environment, have still performed pretty well. But we know over the long term, high interest rates or constrictive monetary policy is not good for risk assets like cryptocurrencies. So why is Japan raising rates and this massive sell-off, in my opinion, actually good news? Well, guys, the market told us today that it was not happy about rates going higher, and the market is starting to price in the possibility of a recession or a massive credit liquidity event. These are all things that would essentially cause an implosion into the financial system. And as I continue to talk here, you're probably still asking the question, how is any of this remotely good? Well, guys, at the end of the day, the Federal Reserve knows interest rates are not going to stay high for very long. They have already been signaling cuts around the corner. But the main reason the Federal Reserve hasn't cut yet was there really hasn't been an incentive to do so. Nothing has really fallen apart, and for the most part, markets were operating as if interest rates weren't as high as they are. But what we're seeing now is things are starting to fall apart. Things are starting to fall apart at the same exact time. For the most part, inflation is back within the Fed's target, meaning they really don't have a reason to keep interest rates high much longer. What we are watching should be the catalyst that will allow the Fed to finally pivot. The Federal Reserve does not want to break things, and they also do not want high interest rates. The reason they don't want high interest rates is essentially because the higher the interest rate, the more money the government needs to pay back. I did an entire tweet thread about this earlier today, but it's so important to understand. Ultimately, governments control interest rates. The higher the interest rate, the more money they need to pay in interest. Think about it this way. If you could determine your interest rate for your mortgage, why would you ever want it at 5 to 6%? Obviously, you would want it at 1 to 2% so you could pay less money. Well, the same is true for the government. They are not going to want to keep interest rates high forever if they don't have to, or if their hand isn't being forced by inflation. Now that inflation has really moved through the system, there is absolutely no reason for the Federal Reserve to keep interest rates high, especially with the implosions we are watching all around the market. I believe the event we saw last night is the perfect reason for the Fed to pivot come September. And this is something we are already waiting for, but this should confirm that this event is right around the corner. Ultimately, I believe this is what we needed to see to enter the next phase of growth for the cryptocurrency market. We needed a more conducive monetary policy system for these cryptocurrencies to prosper, and lowering interest rates is going to be absolutely key to making that happen. It's so important to understand that nothing we have seen over the past couple of days has remotely impacted the thesis behind cryptocurrencies. What we are watching is a macro mess that is hopefully right around the corner from being cleaned up. I think as this gets cleaned up, we were actually on the back half of a lot of these headwinds. I think COVID caused inflation. The Federal Reserve was forced to jack up rates. They jacked up rates. Now things are breaking, and we are finally on the back end of this constrictive negative cycle. COVID caused a lot of issues like inflation. The Fed was able to use high interest rates to make inflation go away, but now they need to make high interest rates go away before they collapse the entire system. Right now, we're really teetering on an edge here, but I still think there's sufficient time for them to bring down interest rates before the entire system breaks. Now, the other thing I want to say in regards to this is typically, based on what we have seen in the market so far, we really are past the worst of things. Take a look at this. This is a chart of the VIX, and what you can see is just today, the VIX actually had one of the biggest spikes it has ever had. The only two times it has spiked higher was during the 2008 recession and COVID. Now, what's so interesting about this is it's actually kind of a trailing indicator. Typically, a lot of people start looking at the VIX and saying, oh, things are about to get really bad. Things are about to plummet. But the fact of the matter is typically the VIX going up and showing that volatility in the market is actually a sign that things are about to get better. Take a look at this. Based on history, after a massive VIX spike, the S&P 500 is typically up 54%, the NASDAQ 68%, Bitcoin close to 900%, and gold 1.5%. What does this show us? This shows us that typically when the VIX spikes, the worst is actually behind us, and the market is actually going into recovery mode. We have almost seen that exact thing play out today. The market started with the VIX up at 60, ended close to 30, all while cryptocurrencies and stocks rebounded big time. So what I think we really saw was the catalyst for the Fed to pivot. What I think we really saw was kind of the market doing this blow-off moment, saying, okay, this was the last big thing before we can finally go back to a less restrictive monetary stance. These are all going to be very important things for the cryptocurrencies you and I own. In simple terms, I don't think any of this really hurts the long-term thesis at all. Cryptocurrencies are just as important to the system as they were yesterday. But what we are closer than to ever is actually a monetary policy or a macro environment that is actually going to help cryptocurrencies rather than hurting them. If it wasn't for this blowup, the Federal Reserve might have been able to rationalize keeping interest rates higher for longer. But what we are seeing is their arm is being held, and they are now being forced to pivot like never before. The other thing I wanted to show you that is so important is that the market is already factoring in interest rates coming down. Take a look at this chart. The green line is where the Federal Reserve sets interest rates. What you can see is that the Federal Reserve actually has interest rates set right now to 5.33%. But this blue line is where the market sees interest rates going. What you can see in that line is that it is starting to fall off a cliff. The market knows interest rates are coming. And in the same exact way, back in 2022, the market predicted interest rates were going to go up prior to the Federal Reserve adjusting. I think what we're going to see now is the market telling us interest rates are going to go down prior to the Federal Reserve actually cutting those rates. It seems like everything is flashing for rate cuts to be around the corner. And what we have seen is over time, these rate cuts are massively significant to providing liquidity to the cryptocurrency market. If investors cannot just hold USD in treasury bills and get a 5% yield, they are forced to look other places for returns. And one of the primary places they are going to be looking for returns is in a blossoming, growing, critical part of the next generation financial system, which I believe is going to be the cryptocurrency networks you and I already own a part of. Now, the other thing we really want to be paying attention to is what did the biggest institutions do today? How did they react to the dip? And what we can see is they actually were buying it up. We saw that earlier today, BlackRock was actually buying large amounts of Bitcoin for their Bitcoin ETF because they understand everything we are watching playing out right now does not hurt the thesis behind cryptocurrencies. Instead, it massively increases it. We are still in a system where the monetary policy is a mess. We are still running on a system that is drastically outdated and needs to be updated. It's legacy infrastructure. And nothing we have seen with this interest rate blow up has anything to do with any of these fundamentals of the cryptocurrency sector. So my reaction to this is that you should be doing what the largest institutions are doing out there, and that is purchasing the dip. They know where this market is going. They understand that Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are poised to benefit massively on the back end of this. It was absolutely shocking that cryptocurrencies performed as well as they did in the high interest rate environment. I would have never expected them to do so well. But now that they have proven how strong their momentum has been in this high interest rate environment, I think they are poised to benefit even bigger when that constriction goes away. The Federal Reserve is being forced to cut rates now. They are not going to have an option. I believe by the end of this year, we could see interest rates under 2.5%. And that would provide a massive catalyst to this market we have been severely lacking. With that said, I hope this video really helps you understand that nothing we have seen over the past 1 or 2 days should alter your thesis behind cryptocurrencies at all. And in fact, the truth of the matter is we actually might be even closer right now than we have ever been before to entering an environment that is actually going to be massively beneficial for cryptocurrencies. And the event we watched over the last couple of days might have just accelerated that to happening sooner. As I hope this video helped you, let me know if you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for coming. And for now, Mickle out.